Have you ever been in a situation where you really needed someone to like you? Maybe you met an attractive girl on the street and want to ask her out. Or maybe you're preparing for a job interview that you need real bad. And you just need that person to give you just a bit of time to shine and show your true personality. Well, what you're really looking for is making a great first impression. We see tons of people every day. All of them are different ages, different builds, different personalities. And throughout the years, our brains adapted and created these patterns for assessing what can we expect from these people. And the real question is, how can we use that knowledge in our advantage? To answer that, we firstly need to understand what first impression truly is. In psychology, a first impression is the event when one person first encounters another person and forms a mental image of that person. In other words, this is just an image that your brain shows to you based on your previous experiences and beliefs. In fact, earliest mentions of first impression dates back to 4th century before Common Era. Aristotle's rhetoric work explains that a speaker's character and the very first signals that it produces can influence audience's reception long before any detailed information is presented. In other words, Aristotle is saying that the first impression can really set the tone for the entire interaction, which in result influences the outcome of it. Following that, a Roman educator Quintilinus, in his work Institutio Oratoria, also stressed the critical role of the first impression in oratory. He noticed that the initial presentation of the speaker, how he is dressed, the pitch of his voice, could either establish credibility or undermine it, greatly influencing how the next information is going to be received. This just shows that people started noticing this phenomena of first impression really early on in our history. But what about now? Has modern scientists introduced any empirical research to really back those observations? In fact, yes. There are two important studies that matter. But before we dive into those, I just wanted to remind you that on this channel, we explore different psychological tips and tricks and try to explain them as simple as possible. So if you're interested, don't forget to like and subscribe. So we will start off with something called thin slicing. This is a process of making surprisingly accurate guesses about a person based on a very brief snippet of information. Usually just a glance lasting a few seconds or hearing the first sentence someone's saying. Essentially, it's our brain's ability to slice through limited data and make judgments. There is a study that Willis and Todorov conducted in 2006, which was aimed at measuring how fast our brains can actually come up with those guesses. They conducted 5 different experiments, each one focusing on a specific trait judgment. They gathered a bunch of people and showed them a series of face images for a very brief duration, 100 milliseconds, 500 milliseconds, and a second, to compare if longer viewing correlated with more accurate estimation. After each face was displayed, participants immediately rated the person on attributes like trustworthiness, competence, and other social traits on a standardized rating scales. It's basically a scale from 1 to 10. In conclusion of that experiment, researchers found that 100 milliseconds exposure was sufficient to form an impression of a person. What is more interesting is that increasing this exposure time didn't really make a difference in initial impression. It only boosted the confidence in initial estimate and made it more differentiated. But how did they actually measure that participants were given an accurate results? Like trustworthiness and competence are traits that cannot really be measured. They are subjective. Well, remember that this particular study was aimed at measuring if longer exposure would give any changes in the initial assessment. But our next study was focused on exactly that, measuring the accuracy of initial assessment. In 1992, Ambady and Rosenthal conducted a study focused on assessing how competent the teachers are. They recorded short, usually ranging from 2 to 10 seconds silent videos of teachers during classroom instructions. And they gave those videos to the participants and made them estimate the competence on a scale from 1 to 10. After that, they asked the students of those teachers to complete the same exact survey to compare the results. And what do you think? Researchers found strong correlation between answers of participants and the students. And this study has set a real foundation for the whole research of thin slicing. Now that we know what first impression truly is, let's talk about what makes a good first impression. There are really 4 things you need to consider to make a good first impression. So the first and the most important one is emotional expression. Emotions are something that makes us human. And if you really want to set a good tone for an upcoming interaction, you should shine with positive energy. There are universal indicators of happiness, like a small smile that can really make a difference when firstly interacting with someone. Of course, for different types of interactions, you might want to pick different type of emotional expression. When you are in a casual setting and meeting up with a potential friend, you need to wear a slight smile to show happiness and excitement to get to know each other. When you are in a court, you need to be serious. So it is a good idea to wear just like a normal, neutral expression. When you're negotiating a business deal, sometimes you need to show that you are really surprised or even disgusted to hear the price, for example. And there are really a lot of different examples of different emotions you need to wear in different situations. The good thing is that your body already knows all of them. You just need to let it do it. Second one is posture and body language. How we stand or sit, our gestures and our overall body movement can indicate confidence, openness, or even defensiveness. If you were to sit in a job interview like the guy on figure B does, you would send a strong negative message to your interviewer. However, if you sit more like guys on figure C, you would show that you are intelligent and confident, which sends strong positive feeling. Also, try to avoid sudden movements or sharp movements, as it shows that you are nervous and not confident. My guideline to good body language would be maintaining open posture, making smooth gestures, and standing your ground. This shows that you are kind and open to the discussion, and at the same time, you are confident and you stand your opinion if needed. Third one is eye contact. This is really a simple one. It is recommended to maintain eye contact because it signals trust and engagement in the conversation. If you don't maintain eye contact, it will either say that you are not interested or that you are really shy, which is not good in any case. But as always, you need to maintain balance and not just blankly stare at someone for the whole duration of the conversation. Last but not least is closing. Now, this is a really big one and it probably deserves a video on its own. So here today, I'm just going to give you a simple generic example of this. You really need to choose closing depending on the setting. If this is something business related, you should consider dressing smart. However, don't overdress, because this also will send a negative signal. You should really check out other videos on this topic. Unfortunately, on this channel we haven't covered this topic yet, but we sure will in the future. So in the conclusion, I just want to say that today we covered everything that will get your conversation started, but you also need to understand how to maintain a conversation and actually get what you need from it. And we actually made a video about how to get people agree with you a bit earlier. If you're interested, you should check it out. Anyways, this is it for this video now. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and as always, stay balanced.